Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Steph and today we are doing another book recommendation video. And I'm so excited for this one because I feel like the friends to lovers trope is very hated on for being boring and just not as good as enemies to lovers, not as much angst, not as much tension, not as much buildup. It's boring because they already like each other from the start. But I'm here to dispute that because I actually disagree, and if friends to lovers is done right, it's usually my favorite and I love it so much. Something about friends to lovers, especially childhood friends, sometimes having a falling out to lovers or childhood friends straight to lovers, there is a buildup that is underappreciated. So today's video is going to be friends to lovers books that don't suck and aren't boring, because I compiled a list of like good friends to lovers that have either like a slow burn, they're fighting the fact that they like each other, one of them's in denial, but there's so much jealousy and angst and tension and build up, and it's so obvious they want to be together and they love each other so much, but they don't want to break off their friendship or ruin what they have. So I compiled a list of friends to lovers books like that are actually good. So if you're interested in hearing about these recommendations, then keep on watching. The book that actually inspired this video is Love in Other Words by Christina. Read this one about 2 weeks ago. It became a 5-star read for me, one of my all-time favorites, and I wasn't expecting it because it was childhood friends to lovers, and I was like, it's probably gonna be boring. Boy, was I wrong. It is told in the past and present perspective. When Macy was really young, her mom passes away and her dad gets this lake house that they go to every weekend as a little like getaway. And at this lake house, she walks in on the first day there and there is a boy sitting in her bedroom on the floor reading a book. And he's like, oh, sorry, no one lives here. I usually just come here to read. My house is really loud. And she's like, I love reading. They make their little closet that they have into a library. They become best friends. Every weekend they hang out since elementary school. He's the only one that like really understands her. She looks forward to her weekends with him. He is such a cute, wholesome little like nerdy reader boy, and she's like going through a lot obviously with her mom passing away, and he's always there for her and wants to talk about it with her, but she's really closed off throughout their whole like high school experience. Then in the present perspective, they're no longer friends or lovers or anything. They're no longer speaking, and they reunite one day at a coffee shop. The next day he comes up to her and is like, at least can we be friends? I miss you so much. Why did you cut me off all those years ago? And the book starts from them meeting as kids and then meeting again as adults, reuniting, and goes back and forth, and you're watching them fall in love as kids and then watching them re-fall in love as adults, all waiting to the build-up of what actually happened between them. It was so good. I couldn't put it down. I read it in one sitting and I could not recommend that book enough. So that is a great friends to lovers to start off with. Childhood friends to kind of enemies to lovers. Okay, then is kind of a trilogy, but you can read it as a standalone, is Him by Sarina, Bowen, and Elle Kennedy. This book is also friends to lovers, childhood friends, except it's between two boys, and it's hockey romance just like Off Campus. I've talked about this book before and I love it so much. But basically when they are teenagers, they go to this camp every summer for hockey. These two boys are best friends. One of them is in the closet and the other one is straight. There's like flashbacks of them having like this moment together when they're younger. The one friend that's in the closet decides to break off all contact with his best friend after what happened. He like kind of feels guilty about his feelings, and 4 years later they're in the hockey playoffs competing against each other. Jamie, the boy that is straight and has a girlfriend, I believe, is so confused why he got cut off by his best friend and confronts him at their game at the hotel, and it is their romance from there. There's a lot of sexuality questioning. The buildup is so intense because they're both so confused by the situation but so like obsessed with each other that they can't stop. There's so much jealousy, and that's what I really love about it, like jealousy that is done well in a book. It was just really good, and it's actually a trilogy, but you could read just the first book and it's perfect as a standalone. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is The Problem with Forever by Elle Armentrout. This book is young adult, so if you're younger, perfect book for you. This book is about Mallory, who has had such a rough upbringing through the foster care system. She's gone through so much trauma to the point where she rarely talks, has really bad anxiety. She's just a really quiet girl who only talks when absolutely necessary, and she's just dealing with a lot of PTSD from her childhood. Growing up, she was in the foster care system with this boy named Ryder, and he is a year older than her, and he would protect her when they were in this house. He always looked out for her. He took the hits for her. He sacrificed himself for her multiple times just to keep her safe as kids. He was like her hero growing up. Like, she was so grateful for him and didn't know like how she would have survived without him, until one night when they were kids, something really horrible happened at their foster house and they were separated, and they haven't seen each other since, until Mallory decides it's time for her to go to public school, overcome her fear, goes to class, class, her last class of the day, and Ryder is in her class. Ryder's super popular, has a girlfriend, and he sees her. They look at each other and they have this realization of this whole past that they had together with their shared trauma and how much they've been through. And he is so protective of her. They've gone through the same stuff, and she's obviously been so noticeably affected by it, and it's obvious how much she's been affected by it because she's so quiet and reserved and has this actual diagnosed issue, while Ryder seems perfectly fine until Ryder and Mallory start getting closer, and she's uncovering how much of his past he hasn't resolved and hasn't gotten past that she's been working on for all these years. And so it's kind of their trauma. It's sad to see how much they went through, but the fact that they're able to go through it together and she's able to actually end up helping him. It was really good friends to lovers in the way that their bond is so strong because of everything that they've been through that it was like an unbreakable bond. But that is one of like the deeper ones I read, and it is really, really good. I love that book. Okay, the next one is The Fourth Time Charm by Maya Hughes. This is the fourth book in the Fulton You series, but it can be read as a standalone, but I really recommend reading the whole series, and I recommend reading the Kings of Rittenhouse series before it as well. The reason this book hits so different as a friends to lovers to me is because I read the Kings of Rittenhouse series, which is 5 hockey romances, last year, and Marissa and LJ, these two characters, are hinted in that book as being best friends their whole lives, inseparable. So I read about them a year ago. Then I read Fulton You this summer. They're mentioned from the very first book as being best friends, but all the guys tease LJ and they're like, it's so obvious you're in love with Marissa, she's in love with you, like, can you guys just do it already? And both of them are like, no, like, we've been best friends our entire lives, like, it's not like that. And then you finally get to their book. It's the last book in this entire series, and the build-up has been there through all the books, so you've been looking forward to it. And then you get to their book and it just hits, like, finally, you're like, oh, finally they're together. Even in their book, they're in denial. They don't want to lose the friendship they have. Such a strong bond of friendship their whole lives. They've always been there for each other. She literally followed him to this college because she missed him so much. They live together, so there's the roommate trope because they're that close, like, they're literally best friends. LJ confesses that he did try to be more than friends with her at one point, but it didn't work out and they didn't want to risk losing their friendship. So he's kind of just been in love with her in secret, and he tells his friends that, and so you know that from kind of the beginning. And then they finally like have like a moment, and it's so cute. But Marissa's dad is actually the football coach. LJ's on the football team. Marissa has a really bad relationship with her dad, and he's taking that out on LJ and benching him and not letting him play. And LJ refuses to tell Marissa this and be like, can you please talk to your dad? I'm not gonna get to go to the NFL because he won't let me play. He won't tell Marissa because he doesn't want Marissa to feel guilty. So he's just dealing with this on his own. There's so much drama in this book though, but like they finally get to be together and it's so satisfying, and I loved it so much. Okay, then is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I'm not gonna go too in depth about this one because I've talked about this in a bunch of my previous videos because I loved it and I read it this summer and it fits like every trope. It's college friends that hang out every summer, go on vacations once a year to see each other. They've been platonic best friends. They're literally like opposites attract. Like, he's super uptight, she's super spontaneous, and they just go on these vacations together and it's so fun. So it's actually past and present perspective, like Love in Other Words, except it flashes to when they were in college and started going on these trips together every year. So it shows like each of their summers, and then it flashes to the present when they are not going on these trips anymore because something happened, they had a falling out, but they are about to reunite because the boy's brother is getting married and she's invited to the wedding, so they're gonna see each other at this wedding. So she's like gearing up to see him, and she invites him to go on a vacation with her, like a reuniting trip, and you're trying to figure out why they aren't friends anymore, what happened between them. I'm just here to say that there is also the one bed trope, so if that motivates you to read it, there you go. Definitely a good beach read, but also the character, the girl, was so relatable that it made me cry. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I was reading this on the beach and I looked at Zoe and I was like, I'm about to cry right now. Like, this is like a happy book, but I feel so deeply what this girl is going through that I'm gonna cry. Any friends to lovers were their childhood friends, it starts to turn into lovers, they have a falling out, they become kind of enemies, and then they reunite to lovers. It's like every trope in one. It's just so good, and I definitely recommend that book. Okay, next is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is one of my 5-star reads as well. It is not long-term friends, but definitely friends first before anything romantic happens. This story is one of my favorites. It is so wholesome, and the characters literally deserve the world, and they are like the true definition of soulmates, and I love them so much. But anyway, basically Bree, her father passes away, and she decides after this super tragic thing that happened to her and her family, she decides to just pack up and move, kind of for her safety. It kind of reminds me of the movie Safe Haven. You know, the character is like in danger and ends up moving to like this small town and falls in love. That's kind of what happens with Bree. She moves to this small town where she thinks no one can find her, and she gets there, gets this little cottage, and on her first day there, she bumps into this man. She drops all her stuff everywhere, and he just looks at her and is kind of like taken aback and then walks away and doesn't say anything. She's intrigued by him, starts asking around the town as she's like getting to know people and getting a job and like meeting her neighbors. She starts asking everyone about him, and they're all like, oh, don't talk to Archer, like he never leaves his house, his family is so weird, just like stay away from him, he's dangerous. Like there's all these rumors about him, and Bree's like, okay, like whatever, if that's what you say. Until her dog runs on his property, she goes on his property, he sees her, she sees him, they have a little connection moment, but he does not speak, so there is like a language barrier kind of. Oh my god though, it is so good. It literally makes my heart flutter. He is so innocent and so pure and so wholesome. He is so misunderstood by everyone in his town. He has been through so much, and this book will make you cry probably, and no one will even give him the chance to get to know him, and it is so sad. And when Bree is finally getting to know him and their romance, and he is just so cute, no one has ever really given him a chance, so all of his energy and love is just focused on Bree, and it is just so good. Like I keep like clutching my chest because it hurts, because it's so good. They're not like long-term friends, it's like they're friends. She takes a chance on him, they become friends, they start hanging out. Everyone is like, what are you doing hanging out with Archer? Like they start judging her. She doesn't care about what any of them saying. She's like, you don't know him like I know him. Slowly, because he's so innocent and so sheltered because of everything that he's been through, their romance like takes a while to start unfolding, and she kind of has to take charge, and like it's so cute. I love it so much. Please read it. The next book is Bright Side by Kim Holden. This book is so good and so deep and so painful. But so good. It is about this girl named Kate, and she has a childhood best friend named Gus. They've been friends their whole lives. Their parents were friends. Kate has been through so much. She decides she's gonna go out of state to college. She keeps in contact with Gus, but the relationship is not with Gus. Bear with me. In the beginning, I thought the romance was gonna be between Gus and Kate, but then you see that the perspective is actually between Kate and this boy named Keller, and you're like, who's Keller? You meet him when she goes to college. She's still best friends with Gus, but she befriends this boy named Keller, and then Gus kind of gets jealous, and I thought that Gus was in love with her the whole time, but Kate and Keller strike up a friendship. They're in the same friend group. He works at the coffee shop she goes to every morning. They start hanging out, and their relationship is so cute, but both of them are keeping a lot of secrets, and you can tell that they have a lot of secrets from each other, and they're kind of like best friends, but like surface level friends, because they don't want to bring each other into each other's drama. So slowly, Keller obviously is catching feelings for her. She's catching feelings for him, but she's very reserved because she doesn't want to tell him what she's going through. It doesn't want him to be a part of it. He ends up telling her about everything in his life, what he's been hiding. She meets his whole family, she meets everyone, and she's still like in denial, does not want to tell him about what's wrong with her and what's going on. And so he's getting so frustrated because he's like, I opened up to you, I want to be with you, but why won't you tell me? Gus knows, and so he's like, why does Gus know? There's jealousy. When he finds out, it is so heartbreaking. The romance between them is so wholesome and cute, but it just hurts. It hurts, it really does. But it's definitely a book that I like enjoyed because it kept me on my toes. Okay, I think that's all the books I'm going to talk about in today's video because my camera battery is flashing, so that's why I'm talking so fast. I hope you enjoyed this Friends to Lovers video and found some Friends to Lovers books that you could actually enjoy and not find boring. If you want to follow me on my other social medias, they're all linked down below as always, as well as my Amazon wishlist. And I'll see you in my next video very soon. Bye!